Thank you very much. So I'll not take much time because it's a good that Debolina and other speakers already mentioned about the technology and the challenges and others uh, adaptation processes they have mentioned. So what I'll try to do that how we can basically manage the flood and how Europe and South Asia are connected. And also, it's not only flood, how it more about some cascading effect. So I have already basically divided my presentation into three section. The section one is more why we are talking about the flood, though Dr. Mr. already mentioned about the flood event and all those things, and that also reflected in the reporting data or reporting information from various sources. So that's why in the recent time, flood is one of the major disasters all over the world. And there's lots of informations are available right now. Uh, those are more like global information. What are the global hotspots of floodings and others? And those information would be helpful as one of our speakers already mentioned, which is more local level floodings understanding, but we have information about the global level understanding also. And we know what are the drivers of floods and how it work, which though it's already mentioned. I'm not going there. So now this is a very interesting part that when you talk about the floods, there's different types of flood, right? And if you want to manage those floods, you have to understand those drivers and the sources of flood and how it impacts uh, to agriculture, impacts to uh, human resources and other natural resources. So that's why when you try to manage all those things, we have to understand the impact stories. So I'm just giving you one examples. Let's say there is some floods happening due to some extreme events or flash flood, whatever. So what is the first things happened? So if you understand the first, it's more on the agricultural loss or livestock loss, right? And people may displaced uh, initial level. Then it's more about the diseases, waterborne diseases and other things. And over the time, its impacts on the food prices, right? And if a particular area, as Devolina mentioned, the Shilchar is one of the example which is not happen every year. But other part of the state, Assam, we have experienced that flood is happening every year. And recently, one of the studies in India, they have shown due to the flood, we had an impact on the malnutrition. So sometimes we just think about a flood means only something which impact on the agriculture or livestock or displacement. Not only that, it is impact, and there is a greater impact from food security to health security. And this is not only the physical health we are talking about. If it has happened, there's some mental health issues are also there. So if you want to manage, it's either it is in Europe or in South Asia, these risks are there. So that we need to first understand. I'm not going there because we know all those things. So right. So as one of the key objective of this particular cafe talk, it was more on the challenges, right? And if I summarize whatever my colleagues have already mentioned, so what are the key challenges? So there are two ways we can think about it. One is that during the disaster, what are the challenges, and what are the post-disaster challenges? These two challenges are their own characteristics, and we need multiple department, multiple institutes, and their collaboration to manage this. Right. One of the prominent challenge in South Asia, I can say, or Southeast Asia, we don't have operational early warning systems, right? And those early warning systems we need at the local level. Yes, in let's say for India we have, but in Sri Lanka again we have, but this more or less is a country level. But we need it at the district level, and these early warning systems are majorly focusing on few disasters, but we need it for all. And other challenge what we have faced, when there's a early warning systems are there, and the scientists are providing the early warning, but that message sometimes is very much complex at the other end, who are at the receiving end, the farmers, the vulnerable people at the coastal region. They need very much simplified information. So recently we have worked with Buet, and we have found that in Buet in Bangladesh, and we found that their early warning system and the dissemination process is much, complicated. And we have reported in one of the paper that we need much simpler early warning system or system communication, right? I'm not going to others into very details, but infrastructure losses are there. We have a public health issues, as I mentioned, and during the disasters, there is a lack of coordination also found because of our various rules and regulations. And when you talk about the after disaster, after flood disaster, we have to have prepare some resilience strategy, which is missing in many parts of the world. Uh, Obviously, South Asia and Southeast Asia is one of them. So that is the one point where we have a very weak resilience strategies. It could be better with some what is say some risk analytics, or more data analytics with remote sensing and other in situ information that can be useful for some kind of insurance or other risk transfer mechanism. Health is another point after disaster, or specifically flood disaster, because due to the floodplain, we have lots of settlement, lots of people. As a Shilchar is one of the example, as Devolina mentioned. So that could be one part. It is very difficult for the public health department to control. In the section 2, let's talk more about what is the different drivers in Europe and South Asia. So in Europe, it is more on the extreme rainfall. That's why flash flood and other things are there, and the snow melt. But in Asia, South Asia specifically, we have lots of other things like addition to the extreme rainfall, we have cyclone-induced flood, we have monsoon flood, and obviously, as Professor Misra also mentioned about the GLOF. So yes, impact-wise, it could be similar, but as a driver side, for Central Europe or South Asia, they are different. These are a few maps. You can see that different parts of Europe has different level of risk, and the fatalities and number of flood events, and it's obviously different. And obviously in the coastal region we have more flood events, right? So, but the point is, if you see this particular image, though this the coastal region is on the left hand side, and specifically I would like to show in these areas are more flood events, though flood risks are also this part. If you see this part are more flood risk. So always we need some kind of structural and non-structural mitigation strategy. As I'm not from this part of the world, I don't have much idea. But from this map, anyone can very easily understand this particular area, which has a very less flood event compared to the coastal area. But these areas are more fatalities than or similar fatalities than the coastal areas. So that could be one intervention we need. And so we need the intervention on those area with proper mitigation policies. So I'm not going there. This is a different hotspot. And this is again another global atlas that's available at the basin level. So those are also very much useful sometimes to prepare your policy and other things. I'm just giving two examples. Again, remote sensing data is very much useful to give such kind of example from Myanmar. Uh, we see remote sensing data, how it's helpful to understand the rainfall progression. And with that progression, we can very easily understand from the pictures that due to this heavy rainfall at the upper region of the Irrawaddy basin, which basically creates a lots of flooding situation at the lower part of the basin. And remote sensing data can very easily capture those scenarios. So this is another information which we can very easily can understand that what are the floodplains and what are the flood risks of this particular region, Ganga-Brahmaputra basin. So I'm not going those examples. I would like to stop it here. So sometime here, you see the power of the remote sensing data, and we have published one of the paper recently on Remal, where we have step by step, we have used different remote sensing data to track cyclone and how it's impacted at different areas in this uh, Bangladesh and India from the rainfall, as well as due to that rainfall, as Professor Mishra also mentioned that we have a landslide, right? So we have find out using the citizen science technologies, these particular areas are landslides. And that is very well connected. You see from the left hand side, the more rainfall, it's impacted many numbers of landslides. And this is another example how those rainfall creates a flooding situation in Bangladesh and India. Right. So I'm not going far because I'm already reached my time. So in the section 3, I'll take 2 or 3 more minutes. In the how Europe differ from South Asia, that we need to understand. It's not only the event, it is not only the uh, fatalities or the casualties. If you see the number, one example from Romania, we have this much of numbers in thousand. Uh, but when it comes to India, people affected numbers in million. And if you see the deaths in Romania, it is in 100, and in India, it is more on 1,000, right? So we may debate that India is more impacted than Romania, but that's not the debate point. The debate point is more on these events are sudden, and what is our preparation and how we can combat with those events. It's not about the number, it's more about the mechanism to tackle those events. So that could be the learning from uh, Europe to India and from India to Europe or South Asia to Europe. So that mechanism is very much needed instead of working silos uh, to just to tackle their own problem and their own way. So obviously there's a different way we can see the population vulnerability to recovery speed or the insurance coverage, which are somehow impacted on the impact side or the mitigation strategy or the risk transfer strategy. But again, I would like to say these are the numbers. We need to work together to understand and tackle those sudden events. And the way will be, I would say, if we increase our skill to um, a skill to handle those event, That could be the success stories from this kind of cafe tab. So this I already have mentioned what kind of DRR strategies are needed, and this is the standard process of DRR and SDG. I'm not going there, but I would like to stop here, and this is my last slide, where I would like to focus on data integration. It's not only remote sensing, it's not only the social media, and or it's not about the global scale data or local scale data. It's about horizontal and vertical integration of different kind of data, multi-source data, and we need to have the policy people on the table, and that could somehow connect with the SDG goals. So whenever we prepare our work with the data, we have to have this kind of integration, learning from each other, and somehow it should connect with the SDGs. Otherwise, it has uh, very less impact to create the better world. With this, I would like to stop here. Happy to take some question or discussion. Over to you, Professor Mishra.